Good morning. Happy Friday. Thanks for watching and participating in yet another Coffee and Analytics. America runs on Duncan. So do I. Okay, so this month we're continuing to dive into the data as you would expect. And I'm really getting excited about what some of the findings are starting to show and some of the improvements that we're making to our data pool. So, as you recall, if you've been watching these, at the turn of the year, we said, wait a second, we talk with franchisees across so many different brands. Shouldn't we be pulling some data or extracting data from those findings and trying to find some similarities so we can build insights on a mission to report what the weather will be next week versus just saying, hey, this is what happened last week. And so we started talking with all these franchise owners, which is somewhere in the range of 200 ish now. And now we're starting to see what are some of the connections and what are their stories and what are the insights that we can use to impact franchise development, which is what we're most likely all here to figure out. As we're going to the next level of this, and I'm trying to divide it into first half of the year and second half of the year. Second half of the year, the back half, what we're doing is we're starting to organize the franchisees by investment level. So this will give us a little bit more depth into how much time does it take from impression to inquiry by investment type. And the basic insight is that for investments south of say $125,000, the candidates do move faster than those beyond. But I think it'll be very responsible for us to break it into high, medium, and low. So call a medium investment somewhere below 500 or $600,000, and then obviously north of that would be a higher investment. So we're trying to break it into these categories so that we can start seeing, does the behavior change drastically based on what the investment level is. Now, in general, and if you've watched anything that I've filmed, my belief is that selling a franchise is arguably the hardest thing in the world to sell because you're trying to convince someone to invest their life savings into a business they have very little control over. And so that's a pretty complex thing. And so, in historical franchise development, we've tried to look at, I've spent X this month, I got Y this month. And now the data is starting to report, hey, we're really starting to look at 2023 and how we're playing this out. Therefore, some of the decisions that we're making right now are going to impact our growth next year, and that's just to get us into the inquiry stage. As we started diving a little bit deeper into the data this month, that made it more specific to the month of May. I put in the note here. If you haven't read the note, here's in essence what it said. It was 6.4 months on average for the folks that we collected in May, which is a month shorter than really what we've been pulling the previous part of the year. And again, these are folks that have typically just signed the agreement, and so their data is very specific to them and their recollection of, I saw an ad online, I saw something about franchising in a restaurant, whatever it is, push them over. The other thing that I put in this month's analytic note was the age, because this is something at current state that we're able to target through digital advertising. And if we take an insight on who is the age of the buyer for a brand, we can also start thinking creatively and say, if we were going to buy a print ad, where do people of those age ranges read? So the age across all investment levels came out to 43.98 as their age. So call it 44 years old was the average age of the franchisees that are coming in. So there's been a swing towards trying to market to franchise buyers that might fall more into a millennial category. Is that the right approach? Sure. And the reality is, if you were to take all of your franchisees and collect specific persona data on all of them, you'd probably see a wide range of ages and backgrounds and processes. So it's not like only target those who are 44, but if that's the sweet spot, you know that either other brands are pulling people in who are that age, or other brands are focusing on that age group. So can you play outside of that age group? Is that an area of opportunity? Perhaps. Put that this could be, is this a midlife crisis? Possibly. I mean, that's another insight. So if we think about what the perception of midlife crisis is, you hit your 40s, and you evaluate your life. Did you accomplish what you want to have accomplished? Maybe you have a little bit of money, but now you're looking for, how do I press down the gas in my 40s? Therefore, is that an insight in the way that we position the stories? I think so. And I think if you're leveraging your franchisees to tell stories about how they made changes or adjustments in their life, in their 40s, it could be an interesting process to go through. I am going to talk about a new topic that I'm interested in, which is the category, the bucketing of franchisees, which I'll get into in a second. And I think that falls nicely into that. And then just said we're building the databases by brand. So if your brand has us talk with their franchisees as a part of our process, most likely on the PR front, we are pulling out this data. So if you want to talk about specific data to your brand, eventually we'll be able to do that. And we're getting closer to that with 200 franchisees in the mix. So there are brands that have accelerated findings and said, go do a persona project on us, extract as much data as possible so we can be very specific on who we're targeting, who we have, who we're targeting, and how we're going to get there. That's certainly a project that we have done. But as a value add, what we're trying to create at Mainland is taking all this data, getting it specific, and then being able to deliver some insights directly back to you. So the buckets of franchisees. This is something that I've been thinking a lot about. And if you watched FranX yesterday, started talking about that on our weekly filming. Which, if you're not a part of that, and you go to Franchise Growth Mastermind as a search term in Facebook, you'll be able to find the Facebook group, which you can join and get more information over there on FranX. But the topic was the bucketing of franchisees. Now, if I go backwards in my thought process starts with, there are two types, and there are actually many more than two, but you have business operators and you have franchisees. That's typically how I've talked about it when I'm thinking about who is this target that we're going after. A business operator is someone who's already built and accumulated wealth. Therefore, this is a franchise investment is their opportunity to push down the pedal and increase wealth. So they're not looking at unit one; they're already thinking about unit three as a part of their process. A franchisee, in the way that I speak about them, would be someone that is trying to build wealth. So they have not accumulated enough to hit their lifestyle, but they're building their wealth, and therefore they say, I want to be a franchisee, and I'm a single unit franchisee. So when I started talking about this yesterday, the direction of the discussion went more towards, okay, what is the franchisee that's going to have the highest and best impact back to a brand? And I use Slim Chickens as an example of a brand that, in my opinion, did things very right in saying, we're going to get 25 franchisees who can operate 200 restaurants. Let's find those. And so, do you hit your sales goals in numbers as quick? Probably not. Are you putting another cap on how you're qualifying your candidate? Probably. But a franchisee, the deal value of a franchisee, you can open up 5+ units in your business, can have significant impact to your wealth, the value of the business, and the enterprise value of the business. So when we start thinking about who do we want to qualify, who are we really targeting, now you could break it into a few other categories. You could take the business operator or the franchisee, but you could go single unit, multi-brand. So we bucket multi-unit operators as a bucket, but multi-brand, and then multi-unit builders, which could be someone that signs a 3-unit deal. I don't own any other brands, but I'm going to invest into your business. And so I take that last one. If I'm qualifying candidates at a single unit, the chances of them finding tremendous success in your definition, and I would assume theirs, of becoming a multi-unit operator is a little bit more of a crapshoot versus someone who you've qualified in at 3 units. So within the FDD, you have your operating capital, which is reserved for 3 months operating capital. I would actually start looking at that and say, how can we increase that to 2 years? Not in that number, because my understanding is you can't. But in our qualification, maybe that helps qualify. So the example, I was talking with an emerging brand, and I said, how much money do you need on an annual basis to live? Called $60,000 was the number. So he needs 5 grand a month income to live beyond the means of his business, which then gives him insights into how much he can budget and spend on franchise development and this investment of his business. I said, okay, so 2 years of that would be 120. What if we said we're not going to qualify someone unless they have $120,000 cash in the bank? That's 2 years of 60,000 to pay for their mortgage and their home and everything else. And then let's take the amount of money that you're going to need without the help of the bank. So call it, for their investment was 600,000. Let's call it 20% of that. So you need another 120. So now when you're qualifying the candidate from a cash standpoint, you're making sure that they have $250,000 in the bank, cash, liquid. So it changes the mindset, because now you're using a little bit more of governor on who your prospect or your candidates that are going to get approved are. Does it slow down the sales process? Perhaps, and that's going to be up to whether it's a fast growth company like we just got to sell, or we want to build this to sell, meaning down the line, the value of those franchisees is going to be significantly higher. So anyway, I'm thinking a lot about these buckets and trying to extract data that could ultimately have impact on each of these. And so the last thing on this month's discussion, unless anybody has questions, is making your stuff work for you. And I think this is an area of opportunity. This is something that we need to do better as an organization, to give you the tools on how can you actually take this content that you're developing, these great stories, and actually use it for business development or for lead generation. So are you using your content in a newsletter? I believe that your cold lead database is a tremendous asset. Those are people that raised their hand and said they were interested in franchising, they were interested in your brand. They may have not been qualified or ready to buy at that point, but let's not dismiss them. Typically, they live in some long-term drip, but how can you keep re-engage them? Webinars are a great way to do it, like something like this, to say who's actually still showing up to these things, to gauge how many people are interested. But using your newsletter, or using a newsletter to distribute your content, is a very easy win. And then taking the data, it could be as simple as people that are opening it or clicking on it will give you a sense of who, specifically by name, are interested in that content. Now, for internal use, let's say we write a story on 1851. Are you taking that story and are you sending it out to your internal system to say, hey, I would love for you to share this on social? Because the reality is 1 degree separated from your group is probably your next several buyers. Therefore, we have to get positive stories of influence out there into the marketplace to get people excited about our business opportunity. Are you integrating your content on your website? We have launched a new news widget that is on your dashboard. Still, most of the stuff is work in progress. But do you have the news widget on your site? And have you built out a research section? Think of it like if you could do create your internet resource. So buying your franchise, what goes in there? Is it profiles on existing franchisees? Is it the vision from the leadership? Is it product innovation? Is it the news that you've secured in the media? Is it understanding how to read your FDD? Is it how to be a successful franchise owner? Like, you start building up this inventory on a research tab, that gives a great asset back to the buyer, because again, when we're looking at Google Analytics, we're seeing that the users are spending a significant amount of time bouncing back and forth. Can we give them a tool that now land in our research hub so that we can educate you on how to become a successful franchise owner with our brand. And then, are you building out your drip campaigns with your content? If you don't have drip campaigns, drip campaign, think of it, it's just a drip. It's a drip of information to try to keep someone in the funnel. Are you taking this content and are you sending it out to your drip audience, however big or small it is? Even current candidates in your process, those are 3 easy wins to start getting out there. So newsletter, posting on social, getting your internal and external users to post on social, integrating your content onto your website and taking that content and using it through Drip will help you get that content in front of your right buyers. Because again, if we're playing for call it right now a 6.4 month window, within those 6.4 months, how can we deliver more information that will be impactful to the candidates so we can progress them forward? These are assets that we're creating so that we can help them feel confident and comfortable with the idea of buying into your franchise. So that's what I got this time. Again, we're going to continue to dive into profile data to get some sort of sense of what's working and what's not. This should hopefully give you some insights that can impact your brand. If you want specific insights on your brand, ask your account manager. And again, like if you want to accelerate it, we can do a persona project. This month, we're starting to dial more into what do people read and how do they absorb information. By gaining that insight, we should be able to dictate some of our strategies from a media relations standpoint, but also advertising standpoint. If we wanted to buy print or digital on those publications, we're trying to start extract it, because the reality is your franchisees have all the data in the world that you're going to need to go find another franchise owner. And we can create lookalike moments, then obviously it's going to create a pathway of least resistance to winning. Thanks for watching another Coffee and Analytics. Cheers. Best of luck and look forward to talking to you a month from now. See ya.